So Veronica Abbass is a contributing writer on a Canadian atheist blog, and she also contributes to Atheism TV. She's an active member of CFI at the Toronto level and nationally as well. She's currently involved, as I mentioned, in challenging the practice of opening the Peterborough City Council meetings with the Lord's Prayer. And I refer you to the website, CanadianAtheist.com, for more information on the subject matter Veronica is now going to share with us. Veronica Abbass.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so the title of this is Secularism in Action. And that means exactly what it says. We can talk as much as we want. I can blog as much as I want and say and criticize the supremacy of religion in this country and the privileging of religion, but what am I going to do about it? So last year in October, just by coincidence, I wanted to attend a city council meeting in Peterborough. And I pulled up the agenda. All this stuff is online. And I'm looking at it, and of course, the very first thing I see is the Lord's Prayer. And then 30 seconds of silence, and then, oh, Canada. So, the Lord's Prayer, the praying, I can't believe this. So, and then I also noticed that, oh, Canada is third on the list, you know, in a province that belongs to Canada. But of course, Ontario is a pretty religious province, or at least people think it is. I sent an email to my city councillor. Really nice email, buttering her up and all those things. And all of a sudden, I didn't get any reply. So then I sent an email to the mayor. His name is Daryl Bennett. And I sent him a copy of a post I wrote on Canadian Atheist. I did get a reply from the mayor and from the city council, because I CC'd her. Thank you for your email. While council's procedural bylaw indicates that the council meeting will commence with the Lord's Prayer, and this is from the mayor. As chair of the council meeting, I always make a point of inviting rather than directing those who wish to recite the prayer. Now, this is one of the city's defenses. They're only inviting you. So all the audience is sitting here, and I'm going to invite you to do something. Well, I would like to see what would happen if one of you stood up and walked out in a very solemn meeting for the city council, where the mayor is called your worship. So then I emailed Bennett in reply, asked him if he and the city council were complying with the procedural bylaw that came out of the decision Freitag versus Penetangashi, which I'll talk a little bit about in a little while. He said, yes, it is in compliance. No, dear Veronica, nothing, just BB. And yes, it is in compliance. So Leslie Parnell said she received my email and yada, yada, yada. In other words, we're not going to do anything about this. Then I posted again on prayer at city council meetings. A commenter suggested I contact CFI. I did that, and I received a reply, and the reply also was sent to the person who is now my lawyer, Dan. I saw it, Dan Mayo. So Dan Mayo wanted to make sure I was ready to go through with this, and my answer was always yes, let's get it done. So I sent an open letter to Peterborough Mayor and City Councillors to a newspaper called Peterborough This Week. And the editor was thrilled to have this letter. It's a free newspaper, but there's lots of advertising. And it was also posted online. The comments were, what's wrong with that woman? How can she get up in the morning? She must be so depressed. Doesn't she have anything better to do with her life? poor woman, doesn't she know this is a Christian country? And all of these people who fought in World War I, World War II, Korea, did that in order for us to say the Lord's Prayer. Well, you know, my understanding of history is not that. And I should have gone to one of the Remembrance Day ceremonies just to ask these now very old men, could you do that so we could have the Lord's Prayer? So we waited a while for a decision that was coming out of another municipality. Dan and I waited. And on March the 19th, Dan sent a letter to the mayor and the city councillors. And they were given a certain amount of time to reply. They went right to the date. And they said, they, being the lawyer for the City of Peterborough, said, we are going to continue reciting the Lord's Prayer. Then I had to decide whether I wanted to start proceedings against the city. And of course I did. On May the 17th, I filed a notice of application and an affidavit. Months later, Henry Clark, the deputy mayor, filed an affidavit. And the city retained a lawyer from Lockington, Lawless, and Fitzpatrick. They aren't even using their own lawyers to fight this. So Clark wanted to know why he had never met me. He wanted to know why I didn't stand up in a very solemn city council meeting and voice my objections loudly. I thought, oh my. They would have had the gentleman outside who was monitoring everybody take me away. And then I would have ended up in the police station, which isn't that far away. On September the 21st, I responded to Clark's affidavit. And on November the 1st, I was examined or questioned by Jeff Lanco, the lawyer for the city. And he was pretty skillful. And he had me all relaxed, and he was my friend. And he wanted to know that the city really cared about me and my objections to these prayers. Until I realized that he was trying to lull me. And I started to be just a little bit loud about my objections. And what has come out of this until the decision, and the decision won't come until January 3rd, is that the lawyer and the city are concentrating on challenging my status as the plaintiff. They want to establish whether I'm the right person to be bringing forward this suit. How many times do I go to the meeting? How long do I stay? What do I mean by being a secular humanist? Do I belong to CFI? Do I agree with everything CFI says? They were, sometimes, they were, of course, just trying to baffle my head. There's worse words for that, but I won't use them. So the opposing lawyer wanted to make the case about my status as an appellant, rather than try to argue the legal facts, which had already been decided in a binding Ontario Court of Appeal decision, Freitag versus Penetanguishene. So the judge said, the practice of opening council meetings by asking the councillors to rise and recite with him infringes on Mr. Freitag's Charter of Right to Freedom of Religion and cannot be saved. The practice of the town is unconstitutional, and enjoining the town from continuing to require or permit the Lord's Prayer. So the mayor's defense, we don't require everybody to say it. We invite people to say it. You can say it if you want. He is still breaking the law. The 30 seconds of silence, as I said, on one of my blog posts. I just sat there and contemplated why they were being so ridiculous. And as I watched all the city councillors, and they claim some of them are not believers, every single one of them bowed their heads and said the Lord's Prayer. In fact, one city councillor says the Lord's Prayer in Greek, he tells me. Now, financially, there are a couple of risks. Financially, while Secular Ontario is handling my legal costs, if I lose the case, the city may be awarded their costs, which I must pay. Personally, there was and is a possibility that I would be hassled personally. And that did not happen. But it has happened in other municipalities where the complainant was hassled by their neighbors, by people they met on the street. And if you're familiar with the Gideon Bible case in Chilliwack, people were quite personally abusive to the man who brought that case. That's it. And on January 3rd, I will announce January 4th, I will announce on my blog, that we have won this case. At least I hope that's what I'll be announcing. If we don't win, we will go to the Ontario Court of Appeals. Thank you. Thank you.
Contemplating taking on Hazel McCallion in Mississauga over the same issue. And you mentioned that you might think twice about taking on a richer city council. Is that your advice? Your advice maybe wait till yours is settled?
Well, I would wait until mine is settled, and I would encourage people in smaller municipalities. Hazel McCallum and the city of Mississauga have a lot of money, and so you would find someone to cover your legal fees. But if you were to lose, and they will spend an enormous amount of money to support Hazel, as you know, it might be better to wait until these cases are won in some of the smaller municipalities. Because it could, in the end, become very expensive for you if they were awarded costs for which you would be responsible. Yes.
Sorry. Also, I don't know, Larry, if you know Kevin Saldana. He's around somewhere at this conference, but he's in Mississauga. He was talking to me yesterday. He wants to do the same thing. So try to connect with him. I think he wants to wait until Hazel has retired, but yeah, do connect with Kevin. Another question for Veronica.
Thank you for taking this on. I think it's important. So, and the point.
You're welcome.
Meet again and again. Given that it seems to be relatively settled law in the Penetang case, is it not just a question of enforcement? Can we not just get injunctions issued by the court and make them stop without having to retry the issues again and again?
I'm not the lawyer, but the lawyer's here. Did you want to answer that, Dave?
Yeah, that's what we're asking for. We're asking for an injunction. And they're defending it.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I guess a question for the legal.
Sure.
If it was won at a provincial level, like at the Ontario Court of Appeal, would it then become mandatory for all municipalities?
No, it wouldn't, because it was won in the town of Penetanguishene. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. Penetanguishene. And that's a binding law that other municipalities are not adhering to. So in fact, City of Peterborough is breaking the law. So I now have a bunch of councillors who've been elected who are breaking the law the same way somebody is breaking the law by speeding or drinking and driving. They are breaking the law.
Or conflict of interest is picked up the other.
Well, yes. Conflict of interest for sure.
One last question.
Sorry, I'm the monopolizer. Somebody else has a question.
Yes, go ahead down here. Yes, you.
I'm just wondering, it sounds like it's pretty close already, it's January.
Yes.
So assuming that, it might be too close to the time now, but I was going to say, what else can we as a community do?
Oh, right now, absolutely nothing. I've already been cross-examined. All the paperwork is in and filed. My lawyer, Dan Mayo, and the lawyer for the city will battle this out in front of a judge in court in Peterborough.
So if it fails, though, is there anything that we can do to kind of bring it back up again? Or like,
the appeal.
Yeah.
The appeal.
Is there anything, Dan, that they can do?
Yeah.
Is there
We're
anything?
going to appeal, aren't we, Veronica?
We are going to appeal that. This gentleman wants to know what we can do, what the audience here can do to support us.
I'm sure we all agree.
We have 1 minute left in this particular
1 minute left.
part of the session.
Oh, no, all right, but, okay, so, you watched the
Literally
papers.
ran off of the conversation.
Peterborough this week is online, and the Examiner is online, and you will find out, well, from my blog too, www.canadianatheist.com, whether or not we won this case. And then I'll think about what you can do. But you can certainly write the newspaper and say, this is disgusting. Veronica had a perfectly good suit, whatever.
We come from across Canada. If this goes in Veronica's favor and it's not going to be appealed, then if your community is opening its proceedings with any kind of religious invitation, then follow Veronica's example in your community.
Yes,
Let's
that's
not
what
make
you
it
can
2 or 3 communities across Ontario. Let this be the start of a much more widespread movement, and that's something very practical that can be done.
Yes, we should do it wherever we can, including at graduation ceremonies, something that I was involved in, and other students have done it as well. But also, and Dan can speak to this maybe during the session, or the brainstorming session at the end of this, because there's this inconsistency going on between Ontario cities and then some Quebec cities, there is a chance it could go all the way to the Supreme Court, which obviously would have very wide influence.
Thank you.